50th video, 50th video, 50th video, get stoked, 50th video. Recording drums is a lot of fun. It's probably the most rewarding part of the recording process, but modern drum recording can also take up the most resources when compared to any other instrument. So in this video, I'll give you several ways to record your drums, starting with a single microphone, and then we'll work our way up to 5 microphones. Let's get started.
Learn audio engineering. Learn audio now. Sound strategies to sound goals.
Hey, I'm Robert from Learn Audio Engineering, and I love recording drums. I've been lucky enough to record in large studio rooms with an analog workflow and up to 20 microphones on a kit. And like many of you, I've also had to figure out ways to compromise and get the best sound possible with only a few mics available. So I find the process of recording drums about as rewarding as it is a challenge. So to start, we have the task of recording a drum set with only one microphone. And for this approach, we need to find a single point on the kit that will give us a balance of all of the individual drums and accurately represent the kit as a whole. So for our single microphone position, we're going to use the crotch mic technique. Simply take your microphone of choice and place it above the kick drum, below the ride cymbal, and in between both of the toms and the snare, and point the mic directly at the drummer's crotch. In this position, the microphone will capture a balanced mono image of all of the drums. So let's check out how this sounds as a dynamic mic, a condenser mic, and then we'll experiment by positioning a ribbon mic in a few different ways. Check it out. Now for the bidirectional ribbon mic. We can drastically change the balance of the different instruments within the kit by adjusting the ribbon mic's bidirectional polar pattern. Listen to how the balance of the kit changes depending on the direction of the null points on either side of the mic. For the 2 mic setup, we'll swap out the crotch mic for a mono overhead positioned about 3 to 4 feet above the snare. If your room doesn't sound very flattering, feel free to experiment and move the mic closer to the drums, but be wary to keep it out of the way of the drummer. Then we'll add a second mic inside the kick drum to fill in the low end of the kit. Hey, if you guys like these tips, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and turn on notifications for new videos each Sunday. For the 3 mic approach, simply add a close mic on the snare. Pointing the mic across the snare drum will provide more attack, whereas focusing the mic down into the edge of the drum will give you more tone and body. So up next, we have the 4 mic setup. Now we're going to be introducing some stereo miking, and I have 2 approaches that I like to use for this. The first being the standard spaced stereo pair. I've placed each of these 2 microphones directly above the rack tom and the floor tom to keep them in focus. The most important factor when stereo miking a drum set is to make sure that both mics are an equal distance away from the snare drum. This makes sure that you have a balanced stereo image with the snare showing up in the center, and it also minimizes phase cancellation between the 2 mics. To check for this, simply use a cable and measure the distance of each mic from the center of the snare drum. Our close mics on the kick and snare will provide a full, punchy sound to reinforce the stereo image of the overheads. Check it out. The other approach is the famous Glyn-Johns microphone technique. This one uses one overhead microphone above the snare and another one to the right side of the drummer next to the floor tom facing the snare. Between these two mics, we get a balanced image of the snare, toms, and cymbals, and just like last time, make sure to check that they're an equal distance away from the center of the snare. Alright, so we finally arrived at our 5 microphone setup, and for this I like to add a mic to capture the drum set as a whole. Often this is a room mic, which adds a bit more space and air to the drum sound, but it does have a tendency to pick up more cymbals than anything else. And this can require some serious EQing depending on the room size. For this first example, we're going to use a condenser mic about 8 feet away from the kick. And one trick that's worth trying is to face a microphone away from the kit. This can cut down on the brightness of the cymbals, and you could also try pointing it at a wall to focus on one reflection instead of several. And one last technique is to add a character mic. You could reintroduce the crotch mic and smash it with a compressor, or you could use a telephone mic for some extra lo-fi goodness. Check out this video to learn how to make your own. Remember, the more mics you use, the more chances for phase problems between the individual mics. So after recording, spend some time in your DAW flipping the polarity of individual mics to ensure that your microphones are working together and resulting in the fullest possible sound. Phase cancellation often results in comb filtering, which can ruin your low end and leave your drums sounding thin and wimpy. So it's worth taking the time to experiment with mic position and audition the polarity of each mic. So there are a bunch of drum miking setups that you can try in your next session. I hope you found a new approach that you're excited to try. Leave a like if you did. Which setup was your favorite? Is there a method that you used that I missed? Let me know in the comments. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already for new videos each Sunday. Now get out there and start recording. I'll see you next time, guys.